Thank you very much, Professor John Holland, for coming to the Fundación Ramón Areces to give this conference. And today you're going to talk about the market for information. But could you please explain in as easy words or terms as possible what your conference is going to be about?
Sure. First of all, thank you for inviting me here. May I say that there's been a major failure in many of our systems as a result of the financial crisis. Clearly, we know the banks failed, we know the fund managers and the analysts failed, and the banks and the accountants and the auditors failed. Now, I call this world the world of information. The flows out of a company, in this case a bank, through the fund managers and through the analysts into the stock prices. And we are assured of the quality of some of these numbers and some of these comments by accountants as auditors, and by the quality of the financial reports themselves, and also in terms of the qualitative information produced, we have various ways of checking on that. So there's been a major failure there. So I would say that it's fairly obvious what happened. But there has been other failures as well amongst the intelligentsia, especially amongst academics. We have used a narrowly conceived set of theories to understand this phenomena, and we have not bothered to go directly to the phenomena and investigate it. So we have not gone into banks, into fund managers, into analysts, and into company reporting processes to see exactly what's going on. We have not gone into this market for information to see what's going on. Now, part of the reason is the conceptual framework that dominates this area is the theory of finance. And that in itself is very useful, but it only explains a narrow economic part of the whole process of information provision. Whereas in fact we're talking about human beings and organizations and social forms. And we therefore need to expand our intellectual framework to start thinking about the phenomena as it is, not how we would wish it to be. So what I want to talk about here today is what the market for information is and what goes on there. And I want to explain that there has been a considerable amount of empirical work showing us what has been going on. And this does help us a lot. But we also need a theoretical framework to tie together these ideas in a more elegant and simple way. Now, finance theory does it with the economic aspects, but we need what I would call a theory of finance society, the way people interact socially in the financial system and how that influences the flow of information. So I'm going to argue that what that idea is today, when I'm explaining the market for information, but I'm also going to argue that we can connect that to existing finance theory to improve our broader intellectual framework. So the two outcomes I want are a better understanding of the empirical phenomena, that is the world of information, and a better theoretical framework to explain it. But that's not enough. As academics, we should also argue for change. And I would say there are going to be 4 areas of change that we should consider. One of them is that we need to do more study of the empirical phenomena, that is the world of information in accounting and finance. The second is we must improve the theoretical framework for explaining it. These are the two things I've already argued for. But thirdly, we must change the world of finance academics with their narrowly conceived ideas of economics and economic phenomena. We must argue that the top journals are preventing this kind of research being published, and that there has to be something has to be done about this narrow conception of areas such as the market for information. Otherwise, the same problems will occur again. So finance academics have to be changed. But the final comment is we must do something about the large banks and the financial institutions and the analysts and the fund managers who make up this financial social system. We must break up the concentration of power and elite control over what is knowledge and what is information. We must do this in the interests of the broader investing public so that we can have more transparency and accountability in the financial system and in this segment, the market for information, so that the public at large have a fair playing field, so that they are not put at a major disadvantage by this social structure and the mistakes it has made in the past 15 to 20 years. Thank you very much.
So just one quick follow-up question, because your conference is one in a series of two. So we also have here François Flores from EFRAG, and she talked a lot, obviously, about international accounting standards. So what is your view about where the international accounting standards have to go in this direction of perhaps improving the information for the small people or enhancing this market for information? Or do you feel that it has been the case that with international financial reporting standards, there's already been an improvement and a move towards these objectives that you've mentioned?
Improvement in international accounting standards is essential. However, the information that is used by decision makers is only in part accounting information. Most investors will use a combination of information about the company's accounts, but also increasingly in a knowledge-intensive world, they're trying to find out how the company's business model works in a competitive environment. Now, that is a knowledge-intensive model. Trying to understand how those knowledge-intensive intangibles in the company business model function and operate to create value is one of the most critical questions if you wish to value a company and guess its stock price. So international accounting standards must be improved. But we must also improve our understanding of these other information flows that sophisticated investors are already trying to get a major competitive advantage in understanding. That understanding is vastly superior to the small investor who is at a major disadvantage. So we must bring more transparency and openness to all forms of corporate disclosure and information flows. Can I just finally comment that there's an invisible and extremely important aspect of financial reporting. It creates the structure of information flows. It creates the baseline. It creates the periods through which information flows, both qualitative and quantitative information. And we should look at the jointness of those information flows in developing our standards, as well as the internal logic of accounting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.